So I keep telling my friends, my daughter is the first standard. So I keep telling my friends that by the time she reaches 12th, both college and marriage won't exist. But we don't know about marriage part. But the college part, at least, I'm trying to understand from you all. What do you think, like Charos, do you still feel that degree as a way to get work will continue to exist in this form? And what would it mean for someone to be wanting to go to XLRI or IMA at all in the first place? And should they at all bother about going there?
See, one way it is the way you have talked about, right? This is like a first brand vehicle for me to get into a company. But really, what they have studied, whether they apply it or not, at least from my point of view, you hardly do it 10-20% of it. But whether you are from an XLRI or IAM or anything, that gives you that initial starting edge. But after that, once you are on the ground, like what he said, right, the problem solving skills, how your interpersonal skills to work with the existing people, learning it across and moving up, right, that makes a huge difference. So that's one to it. Today, yes, we look into colleges, we all with the old goal mindset, right? Or if somebody doesn't make a 75 cut, or the guy could be average from it. But really today, backbenchers are the real superstars out there. But eventually down the line, it might vanish, but not in all industries. Like in IT, I might really don't worry about it. I could be core on that, right? But you take a healthcare, I can't say that don't worry about any degree. You come to it, I'll support, right? It might not be widely applicable to all industries because it became a poster child talk primarily because some of that CEOs of tech companies started speaking. Everybody started talking on that language, right? So, but definitely education plays a critical element. But education industry also has to change. Today, for example, if I talk about, I serve a lot of customers on healthcare, technologies around on retails and things like that, right? I need a lot more focused domain skills from these people. Technology is something I can quickly inculcate, but what they learn and come back also the core of the domain, understanding of the business. If I ask you them, hey, you have done in healthcare your MBA, so can I talk about a complete payer life cycle for me or a provider life cycle for me? They really scramble. But if you don't understand the life cycle of that business, you can't really go back and solve the problem. Technology is just an enabler to solve it, right? So today X is there, tomorrow Y will come for them. But the business problems are going to be there, right? So I think those are some of the trends your education industry also has to change. As an industry which is consuming it also will relook at it in a different way actually.
See, the moment we say that the definition of talent is changing, the supply of talent is happening from universities, and at the other end there is a demand which is corporate startups, whatever we call, or now they build their own. So there was a point where people who used to say, I want to build my business, so I want to do an MBA. Now they come for an interview saying, I have to fail startups because they know that we give a seat to them. So the talent itself is changing at across all the levels. The supply side of the business, when we talk about talent, for sure has to. On the other end, when we speak about a lot of things in advancement of a lot of brighter things of life, uh, still the good part is change is not going to happen tomorrow, and still we have chronic problems. I mean, we say HR, talent, data, we are in analytics, but the top firms in you who has data are still firing people in 4 digits, 5 digits. When you say 1,000 people means 5,000 people are getting impacted, you add their family members. So the talent, and you mentioned this, the fundamental values of a good human will still play a vital role, though the tech stack or the circles might change around. Because let's say we have a very evolved talent, people are very smart, but you have data, what you do with that, and why is simple problem like you mentioned, it's not an HR problem. Business is telling to hire, HR will hire. Business will fire, HR will fire. What is this? Are they objects? They are humans, and you impact humans. And company's vision mission is always, better world as a better place, and etc. So this talent need to be more cognizant of what are the consequences of decisions that I'm going to make. So, answer to your question, slowly universities will also, and I'm not saying universities has to do, because I'm a believer, if I'm not part of that system, I should not give two things they should do, because everyone is doing their best. That's a belief, right? Automatically universities will align. Yes, what problem these candidates has to solve for tomorrow, and automatically these things shall get aligned. Like you mentioned, tomorrow's problem will not be survival, right? We all know that people are getting wealthier, but the point is don't have a breakdown because somebody else did really well, because this is what is happening today. So that's how maybe the evolution of word talent will change this ecosystem both on supply side primarily and then subsequently demand side will get the benefit of that.
I had a couple of, sorry if I may, I had a couple of perspectives, One is there's a lot of democratization of learning that has happened because of technology and various platforms. So today, irrespective of which institution you come from, and institutions will not go out of fashion. I'm a firm believer of that. But no matter what institution you come from, if you haven't padded yourself up with this opportunity of democratized learning to add to a repertoire of your degree, I think it's going to be very difficult for those students to make the cut. Okay? And institutions, will have to realize that. So, what is it that plus factor that they bring, which is going to be the deciding factor where the industry is going to absorb them the way you expect them to. Number two is today it's about human performance a lot. And it's not about some traditional metrics that we use to measure how people are functioning. So human performance will have elements of domain, will have elements of tech, and will have elements of learnability, which is very, very high today. So if the youngsters, from the campuses are willing to go this hog, they'll always be in fashion, because what's industry looking for? For a good institute gives me the confidence that this individual has got certain things which are required for the business. The learning agility of the individual gives me the confidence that if I put this individual in different environments, this person will be able to. The opportunities of learning through democratization of learning lets me know that, if I want this person to scale up tomorrow immediately, I don't have to put in everything for this individual. There's a lot available for this person to learn and go. So I think, the institution will remain, but there's a plus factor to it, which is actually going to make it better for the students and the industry. This is
the notion of degree you just were asking. Today, with the National Education Policy 2020 and the changes that are being suggested to the policy, all that we discussed is already there in the document, where we are looking at a couple of very interesting things. One is like the professors of practice, the industry academia collaboration, where that can solve this skill gap issue and things. And in India, somehow by nature, we don't have that like in other countries. We don't have corporate universities. We don't have most of the things which are there in other countries. And second thing I feel is the relevance. Being relevant counts a lot. How relevant are you? The relevance factor is even like
relevant as the university or relevant as a student?
As a student. For the student, you pass out in 2024. 2024 end, you may not be relevant. That's how fast few things are changing. So the placement part of it also has to be questioned. So the degree will of course remain, I think. Yes. But the definition of a degree, like is it job oriented, is it work integrated, is it vocational partly? I think these
what it signals to the employer.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, more aligned.
Why should I hire somebody?
Yeah, more aligned to the employer's needs. I think that's what.
In fact, I'll build two. You brought in two important points. I'll just give you some statistics because I've been associated with the government of Telangana, and on the metric that Dr. Madhuri mentioned, about 1 lakh engineers pass out of this state every year. Okay, and it's almost the same if you look at bigger states in India. Can you take a wild guess? What percentage of these 1 lakh students would have secured 60% and above? Can you take a wild guess?
60% or above.
60 aggregate.
At least 60%, at least.
60%, okay. One more.
70, because considering marks are inflated.
70%.
30 from me.
30.
40.
37.
48.
37 in the last 3
okay.
years. So if 1 lakh engineers are passing, 37,000 are securing 60% and above, and the cutoff for any campus is 60 and above. We'll say for all the three.
Correct.
Now the challenge, while 37,000 kids secure 60%, only 8 to 11% actually get picked up in the campuses. So that is 11,000 students being picked. So just imagine, year on year, every state in India, there is a backlog
90%.
of 60,000 employees, youngsters not able to be picked up into jobs. And one of the things what we realized as part of our work with the government is what could we do for the remaining 20 or 30,000 people who secured 60? And there is where this point came in. They were very poor in soft skills. And you were saying that plus.
Yeah, very true.
And that is when this government, it's a very progressive government, had introduced a concept of professors of practice, wherein people who were willing, who worked in the industry, were coming and spending time with these students to tell them how they could build their personality or team skills. Because the way a teacher introduces that concept whether versus a practitioner made a very big difference. And this, in the state of Telangana, in 3 years, this percentage from 8 went to 15%. Not a great thing, but that really, really mattered.
Significant.
Significant. And that is where I think personally, if people from industry can take some time off, maybe 8 hours a month.
Now there is a portal on that actually.
Yeah.
From UGC. So it's about professors of practice.
Go and teach.
Yeah.
Because it's a great thing. That's
No,
how
actually,
people
professors of practice is a very established track in the US. So in
Correct.
fact, what happens often is, we are kind of lagging in the way we pick up things.
Correct.
So research is an important thing. So we picked up saying research is something that we should do. But then we didn't. But then what happened that we forgot that teaching is another track which is there in the US, which is, so if I'm a good teacher, I'm a great teacher, my courses are, people bid to subscribe to my course, I am valued in the organization as a university. If I'm a researcher, I'm valued as a, here we are like, we want everything to be one Superman.
Unfortunately, teaching as a profession in India is not paid well.
Exactly.
So you don't get good people to teach.
So see, that is where, right, as you talked about rightly, right, when we come down to teach to colleges. So when you go by practice teaching, it becomes a lot more easier, because I go to a lot of colleges to give lectures, and that's my passion area also. But sometimes even if you want to talk about what's relevant to the industry, they would say, "Ye topic, can you please cover that?" Right? So because they are tied down to an academic syllabus for it to be covered. So that's where some of these colleges coming up with their own programs to be created, right? Or contents of the program to be created. So for example, in IIIT Hyderabad, they go back with a specific curriculum, industry experts coming in, that's a credit. People subscribe to it, the topics are there, the people pick it up, and you can come and teach, right? So as a part of some of the programs. Now, a lot of universities are picking into that pattern to do that. That's one to it. Second, right now, we are, with all this virtual mode of connects, it becomes a lot more easier for people's access to go back and teach. Because I do a lot of guest lectures for the college in Punjab sitting from here. Earlier, for me to travel from here to Chandigarh to do that was a pain. Why I was not able to do that. Now there is a lot more avenues for colleges to tap into that, to do that, right? So it's a combination of practice guys coming in together to teach a subject in collaboration with teachers, right? So that's one to it. Some of the universities where I work with, I tell them for internship, not just the students, can you send the professors also?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm leveraging some of the professors to come and work with me for some of the internships. So that helps them to pick the skill, because if one person is understanding it, he can go and do a better job with students, right? Some of the colleges are now started pushing it across in these type of programs. So I think we have to look at from the way like the talent shift is happening, our mindset shift towards learning and teaching also has to happen, right? In a widespread angle actually.
And just one other point here, I mean, from whatever I'm hearing, I think institutions in India are not perhaps tapping enough of the Indian wisdom that we've had in various disciplines. And this is definitely a gap that I see. We look at a curriculum, every case study is from outside. You know, there is a John and there is a,
Maybe
Chuck who are trying to tell you what to do and what not to do at work, right? And my thing is, when are we going to tap into what we have abundantly in our country, whether it's science, whether it's wisdom, whether it's
Liberal arts,
philosophy,
finance.
whether it's
Business.
liberal arts,
Business.
we are not tapping into it. Another point for the educational institution is, are you sort of open to experimenting your pedagogy as well as your curriculum? Okay, so we have a very straight line method of defining a course. Okay, and there are very few institutions, I think, in India who offer multidisciplinary kind of learning. And this is something which, if we don't introduce soon enough in institutions, the curious youngster who is not able to settle with one thing for a long time will actually lose the plot and leave the curriculum and try to do different things.